Welcome to Main Street Sports. Ray Halbrook here. We're at the Kettle Hut Smokehouse out in Crystal City, Missouri. Thanks so much for being a part of today's show. We have a special show tonight. We're going to be highlighting the old Douglas High School, and we are real excited to be doing this particular segment because we've got some great special guests here, and I'm going to go to a wide shot here. Jeff Whitener's in the house with us here, and Jeff, let us know what we've got in store for tonight.
Well, first of all, let me say here at Kettle Huts, music good, plenty of good blues music, and it smells good in here. So
that's right.
Those are both pluses right off the bat, and the service is good too. So
Absolutely.
We appreciate everything here at Kettle Huts. 1 week from today, Ray, and folks on social media probably heard us harping about this for quite a while now.
Yeah.
There's going to be a very special boys basketball game at Festus High School. It's going to be the Crystal City Hornets versus the Festus Tigers. And what they are doing for this game is they are honoring Douglas High School, which for those who don't know was the African American high school here in Festus at the time on 4th Street. And they will be wearing special jerseys that night. The jerseys, the green and white jerseys of the Douglas Trojans. I think one team will say Douglas and the other team will say Trojans on it,
right?
With the numbers on it. And I know there will be some special presentations and different things going on that night. So that's a game you don't want to miss. But if you can't make it out live, Ray, how can the people find it?
We'll be live either on Facebook or we might actually be on YouTube. I'm trying to work on YouTube also to it's going to be one or the other. We can't do both right now. There's some issues with technical issues that we can't cross post to both, but we might be able to once the stream starts. But long story short, we're going to be in the house at Festus High School, and we're going to be streaming it live. And I don't even know who we got calling it yet. I'm sure it's going to be Alex. Alex has already asked me, so
you don't want to miss that one.
Yeah, he'll be there. It might be you if we can maybe get you upstairs.
Figure out. So I might be the roving reporter down there that night.
That's okay. I'm all right with that.
Needless to say, we are honored, very honored to be able to bring this game to everyone. It's such an important game for the community. And Ray, for those new to the area or too young to remember, kind of want to go into the background, the history a little bit about Douglas High School and the Douglas Cooperative.
Sure.
Douglas High School operated in Festus, like I said, on 4th Street from 1939 to 1956. The school was located on South 4th Street, right where Shropshire Park is right now, right across the street there from the Mount Pilgrim Free Will Baptist Church.
Okay.
The park itself is named after Dr. A.C. Shropshire. He was one of the key figures in creation of the Douglas Cooperative High School. The high school originally served students from Crystal City, Festus, Herculaneum, DeSoto, Bonne Terre, Farmington, and Potosi. And then later on, from other towns, they had students from St. Genevieve, St. Mary's, Fredericktown, and Ironton. Because space was limited at the time, they actually had some classrooms, I guess, set up in the basement over across the street at the Free Will Baptist Church for a time. Individual towns contributed $50 per student for tuition and transportation, and the state paid another 50%. So the folks at the time in the African American community and the southeast region, and here Festus and Crystal City especially, realized that the value of the education, and everybody pulled together to help get these kids into schools. In 1953, a brand new gym was constructed on the corner of Harrison Lane and South Mill Street. That building, of course, still stands for those of you familiar with the area, and is currently operated by the Twin City Christian Academy. The Douglas Cooperative began the integration process with the Festus School District in 1955, and we'll talk about that a little bit. The last of the K through second grade students were integrated in 1959, and shortly after that, the cooperative closed for good. So, having said all that, I'd like to introduce our special guest today. We are very honored to have with us, and this is the first mayor we've had on the show.
Yeah, right.
So
right.
I know we've had several dignitaries, but this is our first mayor. Mr. Earl Cook here attended both Douglas High School and Festus High School, played basketball for both schools, Marine Corps veteran, I believe.
Right.
And retired from Dow Chemical. Mr. Cook was sworn in as the Festus' first African-American mayor in 2009, the very day Barack Obama was sworn in.
How about that?
And he is a current member of the Festus Tourism Commission, I believe. I don't know if you have heard any other commissions or boards or anything like that. So.
Well, I've been fortunate enough to be asked by the mayor to be on the board, but I haven't. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to attend any meetings yet because I've had some illness. But I surely want to and intend on.
All right, very
part
good.
Of that board because it's important.
Well, I'm sure they could definitely use your input. To Mr. Cook's right, you're left on your screen, is, of course, our friend of the show, Mr. Anthony Lawrence. Mr. Lawrence is a former Festus Tiger basketball standout, went on to play at St. Louis University and Mineral Area College. Mr. Lawrence, you also may know from coaching high school basketball in the area. What else do we need to know about your bio? Besides, you're a guy who tells it like it is.
Really too much to talk about.
Right?
Well, I've been in law enforcement for 30-some years, so that's my background. It's police work. So I'm glad to be here.
All right. Well, we're honored to have you both here with us today. Now, we also not only want to talk about the great event coming up next week honoring Douglas High School, but also want to talk about the history and the legacy of the cooperative itself. I think it's important for people to learn about the pioneering African-American students and the hardships and challenges and sacrifices they probably faced. I'm going to throw this first question out to both of you. Dr. Shropshire went to great lengths to study the effects of sports and other activities, encouraging racial empathy. He concluded that sports were, quote, a great unifier and met with much success in developing racial understanding. Now, as former athletes, do you agree with that statement?
Sure, I do personally because I'll tell you this. Back in the early years, for Festus and Crystal, most of the black kids and white kids knew each other from sports, Little League baseball. That's where they got together most of the time in summertime.
So there was no segregation in the Little Leagues
There
at all?
was no segregation in the Little Leagues. At that time, there wasn't any, and there hasn't been any. Don't get me wrong, there isn't any now. I want to get that straightened before it gets taken, wrong.
Right.
But there's there's nothing wrong with it now. But that was when the first people first started getting together was through Little League baseball.
That's a good start. Like you said, these kids then knew each other, familiar each other, growing up a little bit. Because
I say that's this too. One of the things that happened, baseball was good for it because in the age group from 11, I think it was from 11 or 12 on up till whatever. There wasn't anything activities for black kids and white kids to get together until that age group, because there wasn't anything else other than baseball, and that's when the Corey League was put together for all to continue on that friendship.
Sure.
There was one other thing. The Daily News. We had a newspaper in town called the Daily News Democrat.
That's right.
Daily News Democrat come on every day, and that's when the kids work together, selling newspapers. Everything is all about sports and about newspapers. That things started happening, and kids started getting together, and we knew each other from then. So it kind of carried over into the age groups.
Well, that's a very good point on that. What do you think, Mr. Lawrence? What are your thoughts on it?
Well, I agree with Mr. Cook. Sports brings everybody together, no matter your race, creed, sex. It doesn't matter. And I can remember from playing Little League ball, and most of my friends, white and black, we played ball, and sports brings everybody together, and it still does to this day. It's just, I agree with what Mr. Cook said. Sports brings us together.
I agree. I think of sports maybe a little bit of the entertainment industry. Definitely the modern military, I think, has helpful with that as well. But those are some of the major things in sports. And nobody cares what you look like. It is if you're a good teammate and you're a good player. That's the most important thing. Ray, you want to shoot number 2 at Mr. Cook there? Want to get you involved in the questions.
I know
you're
putting me on the spot here.
I'm always putting you on the spot.
All right, Mr. Cook, please take us back to the days in the 40s, okay, in the 50s, when you attended school in the Douglas Co-op and on Douglas High School. Describe the school and learning environment for us.
Yeah, well, I probably don't want to put this. Well, everybody wanted to learn. Yeah, every kid wants to learn. Now I'll go this. I'm gonna start a place maybe I should in high school. We had a young man who lived in Farmington, Missouri, but the only way he could get to school was ride the bus. If the bus didn't go that day, didn't run that day, he didn't get to school.
Oh, man.
Except for this young man. His name was Donald Fulton. He walked from Farmington to Festus.
My goodness.
Wow. That's a long haul.
That's right.
That's at least 35 miles, if
He
not more.
walked from Farmington. He knew the bus wasn't going to run that for some reason. I don't know what the reason was. I don't know what the reason was. But he knew that the bus wasn't going to run that. The only way he was going to get to school was if he walked. And he did.
Unbelievable.
Not only did he do that, but in later years, he became a high school executive in Sikeston, Missouri. He became the school superintendent of Sikeston High Schools.
My goodness.
So that dedication during that period of time went on in later years to lead him what he wanted to become.
Dedication was exactly what I was coming up with right there.
You hit on a good theme there. For those who education has been denied for so long, there's a thirst for knowledge, that thirst for education, because with that becomes a certain amount of freedom to build your own life and what you want to do career-wise, monetary-wise, whatever. And that's something, obviously the kids today, you've got public education, you get up to school, the kids, it's a totally different environment, but it's hard, when you look back, there were people that were just thirsting for knowledge, and that commitment, like you said, is very, very impressive.
You've had other young people that have gone to school that went on to various careers, military careers, officers in the service, and other jobs. That education that they received coming from Douglas High School pushed them right on through life.
What were the classroom sizes like at the time?
Classroom sizes back in you really didn't have a classroom per se.
Was it open?
Yeah. Well, you had some rooms taught 2 or 3 different classes.
Okay.
You had some rooms carried second, third, and fourth grade years, and the others 4th grade and 6th grade. It
Right.
went on because, like you said earlier in the show, there just wasn't enough room. But everybody wanted to go to school. Everybody had that thirst for knowledge, and the only way they could get that was to kind of push everybody together. This teacher was 5th grade teacher for 15 minutes during this hour, and this teacher was a 6th grade teacher for 15 minutes during this hour.
Oh my goodness.
That's the way the education was.
Wow. That's now. I think, in looking back in research, I believe Douglas High School, they offered basketball for the boys. They had basketball and volleyball for the girls?
Basketball for the boys, basketball for the girls.
Okay, and track and field?
Track and field for the boys.
Okay.
basketball for the girls back in those days was a 6-man team. You had three on offense and 3 on defense. You couldn't cross the line. You couldn't cross the 10-second line for the girls.
Wow. Okay. Huh?
Wow.
That's what it was played there. But it's like education. Everybody want to be part of it, part of something, some kind of sport. If that was the only way they could do it, then that's the way they did it.
Now, so you played basketball. What year did you first start playing basketball for Douglas?
I first started playing basketball for Douglas my freshman year in high school. We didn't have enough players for our A team and B team, so we had to kind of, if you wanted to play,
Yeah, you had to play voice.
you had to take it where you got it.
You got that right.
If the jersey fit,
if it fit, no.
even if it didn't fit.
Most jersey didn't fit, but you went anyway. You did it anyway. But you had just as much fun, just as much, it was all like getting together. Everybody won't be part of this because that's the only thing we had, and we were going to do it. We were going to do it.
What type of player were you?
That depends on who you talk to.
Now, what I've heard, my mother is a year younger than Mr. Cook, and what I've heard from he was a hell of a player.
Really?
Hell of an athlete. He's just being modest, but I've heard a lot of stories about how good an athlete he was. So,
Were you forward? Were you guard? Were you?
There wasn't any such thing as a forward or guard. You play where you play best.
Yeah.
You play where you play the best. Yeah, if that was wingman or center or whatever have you, that's where you fit in. You know, if you was 5'8" and you was a good center, that's where you played.
Yeah.
If you were 6'6" and you was a good guard, that's what you played. It didn't make the coach we had back then. Adam McCullough, recently passed away in April of last year. He didn't care what you played, as long as you played.
So were you an offensive specialist? You had a good all-around game, or?
I didn't. My family, bless them all, was Douglas High School in their heart. Basketball, no matter what they had, they played.
Right.
I'm not going to say everybody was good at playing, but they played. Now, I wasn't good. I wasn't all that good at track, but sometimes I'd get out there and I'd run. But basketball was my main goal. But it was always good. It was always fun. It was always and you made a lot of good friends from out of town that you never would have met before.
Well, that leads me right to my next question. Then, what were the teams you played against at the time?
Back then, we played most of the teams out of St. Louis and out of Illinois. We played Lovejoy, Illinois, Venice, Illinois. We played Vashon High School out of St. Louis. We played high school out of St. Charles. We played out of high school out of St. Charles. I can't remember all the teams back then, but most generally it was a St. Louis team that had a higher enrollment than we did.
Sure.
But that didn't mean that they was going to come down here and stomp us. It didn't mean that at all. It mean they come down here and got stomped.
Yeah,
Right. Yeah.
Were you allowed to play against any white teams at that time?
Yeah, we did. We played against Festus. Festus and Crystal City were the only two high schools I think we played against back in those days was Festus and Crystal City. I don't know the reason why. That's not my.
Well, even the fact that you played both of those is probably pretty progressive at the time.
Yeah,
I would say. Now, the gym was built later on at Harrison there. But where did you guys originally play your games?
We played games. We didn't play Festus High School. Played their games on the stage at Festus High School. I think Festus and Herculaneum, DeSoto, Crystal City had a same size basketball court. It was on the stage.
Oh my goodness!
There wasn't a lot of room
Right.
to do anything, but that's where you played.
Wow, that's incredible. That's a you talked about who you played and stuff like that, and that kind of goes in the next question: how far you traveled. But what was the travel like? I mean,
Well,
to go and hit one of these teams, to get on a bus, or how did that work?
You'd leave right after school. If you had an out-of-town game, of course, if we played Festus or Crystal, we waited a little bit later,
Right.
at 5:30. But then we went out of town soon as school was out, depending on which school it was, because some schools were further than others. That's when you left. And there was one place we always had to stop and eat with it in St. Louis County, Dohax.
Oh my gosh!
Oh, in South County
right.
there.
Dohax Fish.
Yeah.
Oh man,
Absolutely.
That was where we stopped.
that was my
And the great big sign up there.
Right.
Yeah.
We
Excuse
stopped
me.
there, and
That's going back ways.
that's what we did. And kids from out of town, there were kids from out of town that wanted to play sports, no matter whatever sport it was. There's only two sports: track and basketball. If you wanted to play, you had to pay. Not pay cash, but you had to get your studies and pass your studies in order to play.
right.
And you had to stay up after the games, whoever house you stayed at. You stayed up after the games
Man,
or
oh, man.
before the games. It made no difference how it was, which way it was. You got the education. The education came before basketball.
I was going to say, some of these games where you'd have to travel to Venice, Illinois, St. Charles, you're not getting back till late at night.
Right.
And then next day, getting up and going to class. I mean, a lot of the kids from out of town, did they stay in the area?
Right.
Okay.
They stayed in, like I said, whatever students' parents that were allowing their children to have students. have friends.
They would stay there.
They would stay at that house.
I was reading something earlier in the year about one of the girls' basketball teams at Festus from the 20s. And when they would go to play back then, you can imagine what transportation was like back then. When they would go to play, let's say they went to play somewhere in Hillsboro, they would stay at the homes of the Hillsboro players' parents overnight and then come back.
Wow.
So the home team would host the visiting team's kids, which I thought that was pretty interesting, But it's pretty cool.
That shows how dedicated the kids were to wanting to be part of not only the basketball team but part of the school.
Yeah.
Because a lot of kids, a lot of times, kids weren't good enough to start or sometimes even play, but they were there.
Right.
No matter how many times they didn't get to play, the next game they were sitting right on the end of that bench.
Right.
I'm going to switch over now and ask Anthony this next question. So you come along later. You're in high school at Festus in the mid 70s or late 70s, early 80s, I believe.
Yes, sir.
Did your teammates at that time treat you any different than the rest of the student body?
No, not really. I had great teammates. We all got along. Really was no racial tensions or problems in the school. I had a great time in school and went to school with some great people. There was no problem. I was treated great.
What about on the road for both of you guys? Were there any problems on the road, going to road games
No.
or anything?
Not as I can recall. No, I can kind of say that's a fact too, because there's only two black kids out playing basketball. That's myself and Larry Wansley. Now, in case you don't know who Larry Wansley is,
I'm not familiar.
Larry Wansley is head of security for the Dallas Cowboys
Whoa.
football team.
How about that?
Yeah.
So another man with an authoritative.
That's another one of Tish's relatives.
Yeah. Very proud of Larry.
You got that whole authoritative bearing in the family. Runs in the family there.
He was an FBI agent for 10 years.
Right.
Did you experience any problem on the road?
Well, I have to admit, we did. I did when I played football as a freshman, and it was at Fox High School. Out there playing, the N-word was thrown around.
Right.
But when I played basketball, no. But football, yes. But you just shrug it off, and they try to get on your skin, just keep on playing.
Right.
But I have to admit, that was the only school. The whole time I played sports in school was when I was a freshman at Fox High School, and I was a running back. You get tackled and the N-word, and okay,
Sure.
No big deal. I played defense too, so I'm gonna get you back.
I was going to say,
So,
you get your opportunity.
Yeah. But all in all, I never experienced it, and a lot of people I went to school with that was a little bit older than me, and never really talked about it.
Right.
So everything was pretty good.
Well, that's very good to hear. You want to hit them with number 7, Ray?
Number 7 here. This was for Mr. Cook here. Who were some of the great athletes you played with at Douglas?
Great athletes. There's nobody that really comes to mind was any better than anyone else. But most. Now I'm not going to say most. I'm going to say all of the black players that played for Douglas High School started
How about that?
for every other team in the mix in integrated school.
How about that?
So once everyone was integrated over to a Festus or a Crystal City, all of those kids started,
All the other
regardless of
schools
the sport.
started track, baseball, basketball,
Crystal City, I
Football.
know, started with football.
football. That's right. They started. That shows you how good these players. They were good not only at a black school, they were good at a white school,
Mm-hmm.
and
Nice.
they played the sport.
Oh, that's fantastic. Any names pop out for you, Mr. Lawrence, as far as guys you played with?
Back in my Tony Kinder, the ex-coach at Festus,
That's easy.
great ball player. Maurice Mosby from Crystal, who played overseas. Pat Bone. I mean, there's been so many good ball players that came through Jefferson County. But one of my favorite players is probably Tony Kinder. Very competitive guy. But Tony Kinder is on top of my list. One of my favorite players that I played against and just knew.
That's something I'm sure that a lot of people watching tonight online or know some of these names you guys
Yeah.
are tossing out there. We get any comments over there, Ray, right now?
Just a couple little ones over here. Some lady named Carol Finch. You know that lady? She says you're doing great, girl.
Right, that's my wife's sister, so she probably paid her.
Yeah. She also made that. She also made the comment. My buddy, bro Earl, and I've got one up here from Drew Harrell. We know Drew very well. One of the best men around, Mr. Lawrence. Hey,
Oh, thanks.
congrats to Mr. Lawrence there, and a few others there. But I know that a lot of folks here are they're just eating up just the history of this right now.
One reason I'm not bringing up those names were I joined soon after getting out of high school. There was 13 that showed how close we were together.
Uh-huh.
When I graduated from high school, there was 13 of my classmates that joined the U.S. Marine Corps.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's how. Marine Corps is not noted for being easy.
Including yourself, right?
Yeah, Marine Corps is not noted for being easy. But we graduated from high school and we joined the Marine Corps together. That shows how close we were.
Wow.
What year was that you graduated?
1957.
57. My goodness. And when you went and integrated your last year to Douglas, your first year to go to Festus, how did they approach that with the students? What did they tell the students at Douglas High School as far as where you were going as far as integration and stuff like that? And what happened to the kids that lived way out in the areas?
I can't speak on that because I'm not aware of how that school district or that city handled integration. Only thing I can speak about is what Festus did. You know, I don't know.
Well, we spoke about this before we went on the air, and talk a little bit about, if you would, about the influence on everything happening with Mr. Tynes and Mr. Shropshire together, if you would, and how they got ahead of things.
Well, Mr. Tynes and Mr. Shropshire got together and they held meetings at the schools, each school, and they told the students, this is the way we operate in Festus.
Yeah.
No matter who operates something somewhere else, this is what we do here. And there was not, I can't remember. I can only speak for myself. I cannot remember any time there was an altercation between any of the students. No, liar. There was one altercation. One of the students had some kind of problem. Went into we were going to music appreciation, and one of the students said something out of color, But you didn't have to worry about it because there was somebody else out of color that made sure that wasn't going to go.
They had your back.
That's right.
That's good. That's good.
That's right.
Awesome. Is it my question again?
It is your question.
Okay.
You want to hit
Here
them
we
with
go.
number 8? This
Here
is
we go.
the legendary question about Douglas High School.
I get the legendary question.
You
How
get
about
the
that?
legendary question.
All right. One of the great legends of athletics in Jefferson County is the time that Marvin Bias and Ron Harrington Sr. won the Class C track championship for Douglas High School in 1953, all by themselves.
Right.
Were you
two-man
acquainted?
team.
Okay. The question is, were you acquainted with these gentlemen, and
Yes.
do you know any more details about how this incredible feat came about?
No, I don't. I'm not aware of how it came about, but it was true.
Yes.
It was, and the reason I'm saying it was true because the track coach told me it was true. Now you can not get it from any other voice.
That's right.
The track coach.
That was Coach McCullough. Was the track
That's
coach,
right.
Yes.
Right.
That's Coach
That's right.
McCullough.
To Adam McCullough. But there was another. There was also a championship won by 3 men from Douglas High School. The year before.
Wow.
Was it the year before or 2 years before? And then 2 years after that, there was a state championship run by 4 men.
Wow.
So it wasn't just one.
So how did these guys train? You didn't have a track there. I mean,
No.
you didn't have hurdles. You didn't
Well,
have.
we did have hurdles. You
Did
didn't need much to run a 100-yard dash.
You got that right.
You didn't need much to run a 100-yard dash. Nothing but speed.
Just to work on your starting, probably.
Your starting blocks, and your strides, getting your strides together. You know, that's all you really needed. And because the rest of the thing, the guys had speed. Oh, there was nobody going to outrun them.
Right.
So what more do they need to win a championship? They had
got
the
that
men
right.
and the speed.
I wonder if did they compete in all the field events too, like
No,
shot and
they
discus?
didn't need all of that.
They already had all the points they needed, though.
Right.
They didn't need all of that. They had the 220, the 440, and they had the 100. They had the broad jump and high jump. Yeah, they didn't need what they need was a shot put. And a distance.
Right.
They got
need all
enough
that.
points.
How many points you get for that? Just a couple?
I don't know.
Well, you get a few. I mean,
Yeah.
that's it. They add up. But
I got a question from somebody here, or actually it's a post here from Danny Denton. Danny, our good friend Danny Denton. Tony is coaching my grandson, Hayden Bates, in 8th grade in Festus. Grandpa Danny says. Maggie Lawrence says this. He says, Anthony's mom was the first black cheerleader at Festus. Is that correct?
Correct.
I'll be darned. How about that?
Correct.
Yeah, she was.
Yeah.
She
How about
was.
that?
And you
That-
were the first basketball player.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
I was the first varsity basketball player
Uh-huh.
for Festus High School. Myself, I was on the varsity, and Larry Wansley was on the JV. But Gloria had some good friends, good white friends
Yes, she did.
that took care. I mean, I ain't saying took her. She didn't have nobody had to take care of her, so she could take care of herself.
I would imagine if she's Anthony's mom, She definitely take care of herself.
She could take care of herself.
Yeah, she could.
She didn't really need it, but she had friends. We always had plenty of friends, like I said, because before school even started, we were in a lot of things. We knew most of the kids anyway.
Right.
Before school even started.
Now, so you go to Festus, and you decide you want to play basketball, and you played at Douglas, so you want to play at Festus. And the rest of the guys, did you already know most of those guys that were playing for Festus, or did you?
Sure.
You mean so they knew you, and they were like, come on.
We played baseball with them all summer. We just got to finish playing baseball all summer. Then we go to basketball practice. During the fall. What more do you need to know?
So that transition was easy then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wondered about that.
Nice.
We got along very well together. We got and here's a couple of other things that people don't know. Back in those years, there was schools used to have called senior trips.
Mm-hmm.
Because just senior. We didn't know about no senior trip over at Festus. We thought when you graduated, that you didn't get beat up by somebody. You pretty good.
Right.
All right.
It's pretty good. But we went on senior trips just like the other kids did. We went on to sophomore pilgrimage to Jeff City, like the other sophomores did. We did everything that the white kids could do, because our parents wanted us to have just as much fun, just as much, so that we were just as good as anybody else.
Right.
And this is really what this legacy is all about. Not even so much the students, but the parents, the community coming together and figuring out a way to provide an education for their children, but like you said, not just the education, everything that comes with it, the entire experience. And those are the real heroes in all of this. Is the folks that came along and then were able to petition and get the school set up to begin with. The folks that scrape together money for $50 a month per student, working with the church or working with the state or whatever. I mean, those are some of the real heroes here.
Go ahead.
One of the greatest stories I've ever was told about back in those days was I had a high school teacher named she used to be on the floor. Pat Burns. The referee.
I know the name.
His mother was our history teacher as a freshman, and we was talking one day, and she said she was a cheerleader at Crystal, and she was telling me a story that when she was a cheerleader, Dick Cook and was a running back, Danny LaRose, Richard Bias, and there was a dairy called Vaughn's Dairy, and they would go there after the games. And she's telling me this, I was 14, 15, and she said Richard Bias was one of the best running backs she's ever seen, him and Dick Cook. And so the whole team was going to Vaughn Dairy, but at that time, they didn't want to serve Richard Bias. And so the whole team, cheerleaders and all players said, well, if you can't serve Richard Bias, we're not coming in. And she told me that, and that meant a lot to me.
Go along with that, what he just said. Back in 1957, like I said, 13 of us joined the Marine Corps. Okay? We finished boot camp. So before you went to your next station of duty, you got to go home for 30 days if you wanted to, if you could afford to.
Mm-hmm.
So we were a bunch of us coming back from California, and I think a round trip bus fare was something like I think it was $35.
Wow.
Round trip bus fare from California to Festus was something like $35, I believe. Well, I didn't have enough money, but one of my friends from Festus had enough money. He gave me the money so that I could come home before. His name was Victor Canfield. I never forget that. But the hardest thing about that is, I never got to pay the man back the money, the money that he lent me, because we went opposite ways. I went to the Philippines, and I have no idea where he went, but I never did get to pay the money back. But he lent me the $13. I mean, whatever amount of money it was, for me to go home, so I wouldn't miss it. Another thing, we were on our way home, and we were coming through El Paso, Texas. Never will forget this. And we stopped at Greyhound bus station. We were going to go in and get a hamburger and soda. That's all we had money for. Most of them, nobody else got no more. Some of them had more money than us, but everybody was about in the same boat.
Right.
We went in to this door. We went to this door round back to get our food. The guys that were with us, from our group, said same thing he said. They can't eat, we don't eat.
Mm-hmm.
So they didn't eat. We didn't eat again until we got to Kansas.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
But that was worth it, though. I mean, one thing they always say about the military is there's no black, no white, no yellow. It's all shades of green, right?
Yeah, right.
Well, it's amazing to me hearing these stories that this community down here, it seemed like it was ahead of the curve of the rest of the nation in a lot of areas as far as relations, as far as people getting along. I mean, I'm sure there were problems somewhere, and I'm sure there still are problems somewhere.
Absolutely.
But around here, but the stories are very, you guys are telling me very heartening, very positive about some of the things that happened in the community. One of the things that you had mentioned off the air the first time we had you on the show, Mr. Lawrence, was the fact that you had a situation getting known, getting offers in basketball. I mean, you had some situations at Festus where you weren't getting the information. It wasn't being sent to you as far as, or passed along to you as far as some of the recruiting information you were getting. And can you go and elaborate a little bit?
My senior year in high school, the word was I was getting some offers from some schools, and certain individuals within the school was making sure I wasn't getting them. But I have to admit, like Earl said, there are some good people in this community. I received offers from SLU. I talked to Eddie Sutton from Arkansas on the phone. Wow. And that is because of a man named David Glasgow, a doctor. His wife was a Shapiro. They owned the
salvage business.
Yeah. Good people. I didn't know them from nothing. And I got to be friends with their son. And they watched me play, and they said, this man is good enough to get some scholarships. Why isn't he getting some? And they took their own time to videotape all my games and send them off to all kind of schools. And then the offers started coming in. And Dr. Glasgow said, my nickname was Tish, said, Tish, here's how we're going to do it. When I talk to these coaches, I'm a doctor, so I'll get that respect. I will let them correspond with me and not Festus High School. So Ron Ecker, who was a SLU coach, Harry Rogers, who was All-American at SLU, they talked to Dr. Glasgow for me. And that's how I was able to get athletic scholarships. There was some rough times at Festus. Actually, Mr. Cook and my mother and them probably had better times at the beginning at Festus than a lot of black athletes did during my time. Going to school there, we got the same education, but on the athletic field, thanks to him, his brother, I was always one of those guys that liked to hang around older men and listen. That's where you learn.
Yeah.
And Ron Harrington, who was on that track team, was my next door neighbor, used to cut my hair. He was like a father to me. A lot of these older men, Mr. Cook, all of them, the word was, you're good, but you have to be better than the white kid.
You can't be equally
You cannot
talented.
be equal.
Right, you got to be a little better.
Because at not only Festus, but a lot of these schools in the area, you will not play. You have to be above and beyond. And that's the lesson that most of the generation my age was taught. When we got out there, we had to bring it and be better. We couldn't be just as good. We had to be better. So I thank all these people before me for giving me those lessons. You know, and that's just the way it was at Festus. And talking to athletes before me said the same thing. You know, you got to be better than the white kid, because if your dad is not on the school board or owns a business, you're not going to play. And that's how Festus was back in those days.
Well, not just I'm sure a lot of
Well, a lot of
schools are
schools,
like
but I can only
right.
talk about Festus.
3 on the road.
And since
play 3 on the road and 2 at home.
Yeah, and since I'm talking, I would say this. Through the history of Festus and Crystal, I would say that Crystal treated their black athletes in my area, I'm talking about the 70s on up, better than Festus did. There's one thing I always noticed about Crystal. Dick Cook, Rodney Mills, those guys did not care. Crystal wanted to win, and they treated their black athletes great. And those kids was out there playing. At Festus, there was always 1 or 2 black kids who was on the end of the bench that probably should have been playing. But for some reason, they weren't. So between the two schools, I admire Crystal. Crystal always treated their black athletes better in that time. Rowler Herbert was like a father to a lot of those people, the great Rowler Herbert. If you was black and you could play and you told the line and did what you're supposed to do, Crystal took care of you. They played you. Festus, you had to be above and beyond, for real, because there was always politics in the play of Festus.
Right.
And it's still like that to me. I'm going to be honest. There was always politics with them, you know. But with Crystal, really not. Crystal, they wanted to win. And that's just between the two teams since they're playing each other. It was always, to me, Crystal wanted to win.
Well,
you know.
what you've said there in your statement, and in closing that statement, dovetails perfectly into our final question there, Ray, number 12. And we want to ask both these gentlemen about that. 'Cause
Absolutely.
That's perfect.
Absolutely. Moving forward, what would you both like to see happen in terms of this upcoming game coming up here next Tuesday, and continued recognition of Douglas High School?
Well, that's really tough.
I mean, what do you want this?
Really tough.
You know, obviously,
come out of this.
we're What do we want moving forward? This is recognizing the school and the athletes but how do we take that and move forward in a positive manner?
I personally think myself that somehow Douglas High School all be made part of the curriculum.
Yeah.
Part of the history.
Yeah.
That should be taught in history class.
Well, and it should, because since you opened that up, I remember when I was a senior at Festus, we had a class called the History of Indians and Blacks. Indians were the first ones here, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
The African American was backbone of building this country, and we had half a semester class of both the history. So when I was in school, there wasn't no Black History Month, and really, as long as you knew George Washington did what he did, Black history was kind of, I'm gonna be honest with you, was not even thought of. Your Black history I got, was from talking to Mr. Cook, his brothers, my mom, my grandparents. That's why I learned my Black history, or getting books on my own.
All right.
Festus High School back in those days, I'm sure it's different now, but Black history wasn't important. You know what I'm saying? And we all have history, but it almost appeared like our history didn't matter.
Right.
To them, and it's a shame it's like that, because Mr. Tynes, I don't think he was a superintendent was out there, but was a great man. I've never heard nothing bad about Mr. Tynes. Mr. Tynes was the reason why it was a smooth transition for Mr. Cook and all them going. They didn't have problems because of that man. And my mother used to talk about him in great lengths about how great a man he was. But I think there was people after him wasn't as great as Mr. Tynes. You see what I'm saying?
I think that's a fair assessment.
And they weren't as great as Mr. Tynes. And racial harmony wasn't a priority for them.
Right.
You know, and I hope changes are made, and this game could lead to that.
Be a catalyst.
You know, it could be a catalyst to, hey, you know, let's make it happen. You know, because we're all in this together.
That's my hope too, and I'm just throwing this out here, and I kudos to both schools for making this happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I mean, I love the fact that they're doing this, and I don't know if Festus came up with that. I'm assuming they did. And whoever's in charge, I love the idea. I would love to see maybe a scholarship or foundation be put forward coming up, to where every year, maybe through the sales of whether it's merchandise or extra admission prices, that they were able to put that into some sort of fund and either give back to a scholarship type of a situation, or be able to help those in need in the community. I would love to see it grow something like that as well. And that's just my opinion,
Yep.
you know, on the whole thing. But to that end, Ray, why don't we take a break, and
Sure.
you can tell the people about what we're planning on doing
Yes.
next week with our sponsorship
Absolutely,
activities.
absolutely. I do have some answers to that, kind of. We've getting a small little trickle of information as far as talking about doing a scholarship for this particular game. They're talking about keeping this game going. I don't know if it's in pen, and it might be in pencil right now, but I've talked. We've got a couple of interviews coming up here shortly to talk about just the significance from both coaches, coaches' perspective. Coach Lee Richardson and Jason Therrell from the respected teams here. But my whole thing I love about it is the minute that we were given the green light to go, it was basically, okay, it's on. And my wife and I both were kind of in a situation where it was like, man, how's there a way? I mean, one of the biggest things that I love about it is I know that the kids are involved with this whole thing and they're all on board. I want to be able to give back to the kids, and this is how we're going to do it. I'm going to throw this up here real quick. So we added the game, and it's a special sponsorship because my regular sponsors for that game are not going to be a part of that per se. I've already gotten 2 sponsors for this game, but I'm looking for 6 more. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to bring in what we bring in for our sponsorship. Half of the stuff that we're bringing in, half of the money that we're bringing in, we're going to the proceeds of that are going to be donated into 2 scholarships, one for Crystal and one for Festus. So that's what that's something that we're wanting to do, and we're in order for this to be successful, we need 6 more sponsors.
So this is a perfect time for some folks in the community to step up, to understand the importance of this game,
Absolutely.
obviously, and the importance of what it means to the community, both black and white.
Absolutely.
This historical significance. Mr.
Yeah,
Cook
yeah,
has
go
something
ahead.
you want to say there.
She's pointing. He's pointing at.
Susan.
Oh, he's
Point-
pointing to Susan. That's who
Point
he's
to
pointing to
our
over
friend
there.
Susan Herring.
I love that.
Harrison
Yeah,
over
come on
there.
up.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've actually been in contact with Susan.
I
the
like
last
you to
couple
listen
days.
to what they're saying now. and see
Oh,
if
she
you-
already knows.
Oh, well,
we've been in contact with her.
That's
already,
okay
So
then.
it's been good.
Get Susan on there
Yeah,
so
if you-
people can see who she is.
Yeah.
Come
Oh,
on.
no, she's like, I'm good. But Susan's
Alright,
part
good.
of the cultural diversity.
we got
of
2
CU
of
is
we got
what
2
it
of
is.
them over there that's going.
Yeah.
I think we can get they'll work on this.
She's like, we're not doing this impromptu thing. I need plenty of time ahead to get myself ready for something like
my,
this.
We're gonna get them. Let's see if we can get Joe.
Okay. Why not?
Why not?
So we're gonna we'll
Yeah,
pop
because you
away.
can't hear now.
Let's pop away for just a quick second, and we'll
All
take a break real quick, and we'll be right back. Pathway manages and provides voice, internet, and network solutions to businesses locally and nationwide, all with unparalleled customer service. For businesses out there, if you are frustrated with dealing with the carriers directly, order your carrier services through Pathway and they will deal with the carriers for you at no additional costs. Contact Pathway and see how they can save you time and money managing your telecom services so you can run your business. Give them a call at 800-763-5715 or on the web at pathwaytel.com.
And I'll say real quick, I really admire what you guys do with this. I think everybody who's ever tuned into one of these, whether it's a Legion game, whether it's a high school baseball game, whether basketball, football, whatever it is, I've heard nothing but tremendous feedback about Livestream STL and what you guys do and the quality of production, things like that. I would really encourage anybody who's involved in athletics throughout the county, really anywhere in the metro area, anybody who's interested in sponsoring activities to get on board and get involved with this. I think it's added a ton to what we do here. It's added a ton to the program. You guys are a class act, and you're committed to doing things the right way, and we really appreciate that.
This Livestream STL has been a huge asset for Jefferson County sports, in my opinion. I mean, getting these athletes the camaraderie that they're out there and people can see them. I mean, to be honest with you, I got a call from a coach yesterday about one of my athletes that said that they saw some of her games on Livestream STL.
Awesome.
So, I mean, that right there instilled to me that this is important. This is important for those kids. And so, I think it's great, and I wish you guys the best. And if you're out there and you want to sponsor, this is a great opportunity for kids to support kids of our local kids and get them support and get them acknowledgement out there, because we have a lot of great athletes in this county.
We appreciate that. And at the end of the day, our mission is much the same as your missions, coaches. To help shine a light on these kids and get them exposure and get their name out there and help them. And if they can advance, they're better off. We're better off as a community, and that's why we're here.
And we are back here. Thanks for staying with us here at Main Street Sports. Ray Halbrook and Jeff Whitener were the hosts today. Just jumping back here real quick, I'm going to turn microphones back on. And guys, we're going to wrap up, but I know, Jeff, you want to talk about this book here, The Douglas Connection.
I do. I don't know what camera you have on here. I'm going to do the famous, like Vanna White here, show this book. This book right here, ladies and gentlemen, just came out. It's called The Douglas Connection. For those that have watched our show and are interested to learn more, history nerds like me just love local history. This book is written by DeWitt Bingham, and he is a cousin?
A classmate.
A classmate
1980 graduate of Festus.
1980 graduate of Festus, a probation officer, I believe he is.
Yes.
And he's written a great book, not only about the Douglas Cooperative and the Douglas High School, but also some of the events that in the area that set things in motion prior to that, some of the great civil rights events. So those stuff in here about Lincoln College, Lincoln University in Jefferson City. So this book was indispensable for me when I tried to research, do all the research for the show tonight, and really appreciate this. Is a really good book. And as an added bonus, both of these gentlemen are mentioned in this book.
How about that?
As are their photographs, so
nice.
you can see them when they were some young studs in here.
Great. Good stuff. Good
So I just
stuff.
wanted to mention that.
Good stuff. Good stuff. So before we go to our final interviews with both of our coaches, again, we're going to pop this up here real quick. Don't forget, if you're interested in sponsoring the Douglas game with us here at Livestream STL, we'd super appreciate it. We're looking for 6 more. I almost put up this many, but I need that many. 6 more sponsors, and the sponsorships are $150. Half of that's going to a scholarship. So we're going to divvy that up. We want to put a few $100s into each scholarship. I don't have the names yet because we just got put on the spot to come out and do the game, and but it was something I just really feel like it's something to give back to the kids, and I just thought it was a very, very cool community event, and so if you're interested, give us a call. I'll throw this up here real quick: 314-852-4398, or you can email us over at livestreamstl@outlook.com, and make sure you do that here, because it's going to take us a little bit of time to actually put together the if you're new to us as a sponsor. It usually takes me a couple hours to whip up wonderful graphics and all that fun stuff, and make sure we put the verbiage in and make sure we get names right. We don't call you the wrong name like I've done before. We do it right. We're going to do it right. We pre-record them now. So
The wrong name for guests of the show.
Exactly. Oh, did you go there?
I just went there.
Earl.
I just went there, Earl.
Oh,
Yeah.
my
Anyhow,
goodness. So,
Well,
Final thoughts.
So my final thought is this has just been a joy to talk to these two gentlemen.
Yep.
Just like sitting on a porch somewhere and trying to learn as much as you can. And Mr. Lawrence touched on, because we're very close to the same age.
Yep.
Listen to your elders. They have so much knowledge, so much wisdom to give us. Don't forget, kids. That's the real lesson here.
Yep.
We've kind of talked about the history. And the importance of this game, the significance of this game. Now it's time to actually talk about the game itself.
Yeah.
And what this means, we've got 2 teams here, Festus and Crystal City. In spite of all this, they're playing basketball and they're going to try to beat one another.
Right. You got that.
So
right.
at this time, I know Ray has pre-recorded a couple
Yep.
of interviews with coaches, and
Yeah.
we want to talk with Jason Farrell, head coach of the Festus Tigers,
Yep.
and Lee Richardson, head coach of the Crystal City Hornets.
Absolutely. We're going to cut away from that. Thanks so much for watching today. And one last little tidbit. We had, and I'll tell them myself, we had some technical difficulties doing some of these interviews. Both coaches were unavailable to be here, otherwise they would have been here. So we got about half of both interviews, and at the end of the interview with Jason Farrell, he texted me this right before we started setting up tonight. He says, in my time planning this game and learning about the history of Douglas, the one thing that has struck me more than anything is the tremendous pride that still exists in a school that's been closed for over 70 years. The reason we're doing this game is, at least for one night, shed a light on some incredible people that overcame many obstacles and persevered to do great things for themselves, their families, and their communities. Our game's not really about race, but it's more a special way to honor special people, and I love that. I love that how he put that.
Very well put.
So with that being said, we're going to step away for a second, for a little while here, and probably just step away completely here. But again, real quick, there's our number, here's our email real quick before we go into both of our interviews with the coaches, and we will see you.
Wait,
wait a minute.
Forgot
But that's not all.
Where are we tomorrow?
Oh, yes. I need to probably put that on there.
Put it up.
Where are we tomorrow? We are at, and I'll give both games here. Tomorrow we'll be over at Windsor High School for girls action between the DeSoto Dragons and the Windsor Owls. The pregame 6:45 and 7 o'clock tip-off. And then Friday night we'll be out at Hillsborough High School, where the Festus Tigers will be taking on the Hillsborough Hawks. That's boys action, same times there, 6:45 and 7 o'clock.
Festus is coming on.
Yep.
They're on the upswing right
They
now.
sure
You got
are.
that right.
They sure are. So again, we are stepping away. Thank you so much for watching Livestream STL and our Main Street Sports show tonight. Here's our interviews with both coaches. Here we go. Here we're here with Coach Lee Richardson from the Crystal City Hornets. How's it going, Coach?
Doing great, Ray. How are you?
Good, good, good. Hey, we're just catching up here on our Main Street Sports Show for the Douglas game. We've been given the rights to come out there and cover that, and we wanted to catch up with you and Coach Jason Therrell. So we're starting with you here. How do you feel about the way your team's playing right now so far at this point in the season?
Well, we have just come through a stretch, a 5-game stretch against some really, really good competition. And we've been all 5 of those games we battled very well. I mean, against some of the best teams in the state. South Iron, we played them down at the Christmas tournament, and one quarter didn't play well, and they kind of ran away with it in the second quarter of that one. The other 3 quarters, we felt like we competed very well, and there's been several games that kind of follow that mold to varying degrees. But we haven't gotten over the hump, and that's been frustrating for everybody involved. But we do feel like this is something, if we keep the right approach and take the right lessons from that and learn from them, that's something that's really going to help us as we kind of come back down to earth, back down to the Class 2 schedule that we have in our district, and as we go into the stretch run. And so anyway, we're 3-8 at the moment. We have 2 home games this week, which we're also excited about. We haven't been home in a long, long time,
right?
Well over a month, and so that's where we're at right now. Yeah.
Right. So regarding the Douglas game here, have you had any discussions with your team regarding the historical significance of the Douglas game?
Definitely. They as soon as this came out, what became official, we all talked about it. And at first, there were just kind of some puzzled looks, and most of them hadn't really heard about Douglas High School. A few had, very vaguely maybe.
Right.
But yeah, we definitely have had discussions about kind of what that legacy is to this community, and also the fact that we have players on our team, certainly one at least, who can trace kind of their legacy back to Douglas a little bit, but also on the greater importance of what this means to the community and this effort to do this, just everybody pulling together to highlight what's a really good piece of our history around here.
Awesome. So sometimes discussing things regarding race can be difficult. Those discussions can be difficult to have, especially with young people. As a coach of a multi-ethnic team, is participating in this game a learning experience for your players, and do you have discussions with them about it?
Yeah, it's challenging, and maybe it is sad to say it may be more challenging now. I was in the Army, and it kind of doesn't matter what the color of the person was, to your right or left. You all had a mission to do, and you had to set all that aside and get that done. And so it's kind of how I approach a lot of things. I'm certainly aware of kind of the issues that you're talking about. We all are.
Sure.
And you have to walk into things with the right approach. Sometimes you have to tread a little carefully, but at the same time, I just kind of think, we're all human, and we all have the same wants and desires and needs.
Right.
And so we just kind of treat everybody equally, but also recognize that some people come from different places and different walks, and we need to be respectful of where they're coming from as well. But I think it's whatever the makeup of our team is, I think it's a real honor and privilege. But I think given that this event and kind of the special, particular nature of it, I feel pretty honored to be a part of it, and also to have a team that is at least a little bit diverse and can walk into this maybe with a little higher level of appreciation. Sure. And then maybe for some of the other guys a chance to educate them a lot as well through this.
That's great. That's awesome. Have you gotten any feedback from the community regarding your team's participation in the event?
Oh yeah, most certainly. Again, there's the family members. There's also people involved with the school. When we first started talking about this, they pointed out that there was a school in Crystal City called the Star School that fed into Douglas High School back in the day. And I think that all that remains of it is a plaque up over in Old Town, Crystal City.
Wow.
And so, kind of some discussions about how, as this moves forward, maybe in the future, we can kind of incorporate more history and parts of that. But yeah, definitely great feedback from the community. One thing I want to go ahead and acknowledge and thank is our Booster Club. Yep. Made a immediately, I went to them, I think in early October, maybe September, brought this to them. They immediately recognized the significance and importance of this event. Made a very generous donation to buy the team uniforms, which you can see one of those over my shoulder.
Yeah. Hey, we're here with Coach Jason Therrell from the Festus Tigers. How's it going, Coach?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. We're just going to catch up with you guys on the Douglas game here real quick. How do you feel so far right now as far as the Festus Tigers are concerned? How are you feeling about your team right now?
Pretty much the same way that when I talked to you last. We had a good win against Windsor. Last night we lost to St. Clair by 1. Had a buzzer-beating opportunity, didn't fall down. But I like my kids. I like my team. We got a good young team. But we've had a lot of tough, close losses, and it's just the way our season has went so far. But I feel good about my kids.
Good. Have you had any discussions with your team regarding the historical significance of the Douglas game?
We've certainly discussed it since last year. They've seen the uniforms. They know what we're doing. Over the next week, we'll get into that with them even more. Our school has been involved with that a little bit. We've had some social touched on the issues. We plan to do a lot more with that this week and get the kids involved. But our kids certainly know the game's coming. They know why we're doing the game. They've seen the uniforms, but there's definitely some more we need to get with them about over the next week.
Awesome. Sometimes discussing race, it becomes a difficult decision to talk about, especially with young people. As a coach and a multi-ethnic team, is participating in this game a learning experience for your players, and do you have discussions with them about it?
I think this game is a learning experience for them. I hope what they learn is about the history of Douglas and the people that went to Douglas. I think I've heard, stories about people who went to Douglas, and there's so much pride from that school, and so the people that went there and their families. So I hope that that's what our kids take away from it, and not necessarily something specific about race, but I just really want to see them learn about the history of what these people went through that went to Douglas, right, and all the things that go along with that. And I think that that's going to be a great learning experience for them.
Have you gotten any feedback from the community regarding your team's participation in the event?
The feedback has been overwhelmingly positive so far from people in the community, from people from the Douglas community. We haven't come across anybody yet that has had anything negative to say about it. Overall, people have really been supportive and positive.